Now come back to the studio here, and we'd like to have a conversation on matters poultry farming in Kenya. Are you in this kind of business, and would you like to venture into it? This would be your time to listen in. In studio, we have Mr. Chris Webo. He is a project manager of Hatchinghop Kenya. That is a project by Haifa International, as well as Zachary Munyambu, who is a poultry farmer from Kiambu. Welcome on set, gentlemen. Now, let's just start with you, Zachary Munyambu. You have been in the business of poultry farming. Is it as easy as just buying the hatchlings, so to say, 1,000 of them, and getting started with it?
Okay, thank you, Betty. As you have said, my name is Zachary from Kiambu. I'm one of the farmers who do the poultry farming in this country. Regarding to poultry farming, we have various types of chicken or poultry. We have the commercial layers, we have the broilers, and we have the kienyeji. You just don't come in. You have to prepare yourself with proper housing, and then we go to something that we call brooding. You create a very good brooder whereby you have controlled temperatures, because a day-old chick needs a lot of temperature. So you have to prepare. You just don't go buy chicks and bring. You have to prepare with good housing and good management. Thank you.
Right. Of course, preparation is very important before you venture into any type of business. Bwana Chris Webo, let me bring you into the conversation now. This Hatchinghop Kenya project, what is it looking to achieve in terms of increasing production and ensuring that farmers are earning maybe more than they already are?
Thank you so much. Maybe just give a little bit of introduction about the Hatchinghop. Hatchinghop is a global initiative that is being initiated by Cargill and Haifa International, looking at improving the nutrition and economic livelihoods of 100 million people, and this is spread across Kenya, India, and Mexico. Now, to bring the point home, in Kenya, we're looking at how we can improve the economic livelihoods and nutrition of 10 million people, and who are spread across the 7 counties where we have the project. We're basically working in 4 counties, which are called perhaps rural, and that is Kisumu, Migori, Siaya, and Homa Bay. And also working in the peri-urban areas where we're focusing in Nakuru County, Uasin Gishu, and Nairobi Metropolitan. And one of the things that we're basically trying to do, aiming at to achieve in this project, is to increase the production. And number 2, to increase the consumption. And number 3, to create awareness. And last but not least is, how do we synergize or bring in the private sector in what we're calling a market systems development approach? So in a nutshell, basically that is Hatchinghop, and we are so excited that we've started off, and we're looking forward even to bring in more actors in the value chain so that we are able to really bring a lasting or a significant change.
When you talk about matters increased production, Zachary, let me bring you in there. You deal in this business. How did you start? Could you just give us, in a nutshell, the story of your biashara? How did you start, and maybe the changes that you've seen over time, including where you are right now?
Okay, thanks once again, Betty. I started practicing poultry farming when I was still in high school. That is some times ago. I got interested in the way chicken would hatch several eggs, then become, you have some stock. So poultry farming, as you know, in our villages, and I think it's almost the whole of our country, you visit a home and you see a mama or a shosho there doing some poultry farming. So I got interested from there. Then that was, I was doing kienyeji by then. But now, later on, I did it as a commercial. So when I got some capital, that's when I got interested. I wanted to ask those who are doing their farming how I can start it up, and I got some help from a role model. There is a good farmer from our Gatodo area, and that is the guy who told me what to do and what to prepare, how do I prepare my house. And from then, I did the commercial layers. So I can say that this is a good venture. Once you start it as a business, you get to matters serious farming, and I can say without a big problem that when I started, I have really witnessed a growth. That's why I have been having my school fees and whatever the daily bread. So I can say it's a good venture. So kienyeji also can be of good help to people at the village level, because as you know, white meat is a good source of protein, and a lot of hotels and the supermarkets are doing they are looking for suppliers for the kienyeji. So in a nutshell, I can say that chicken farming is a good venture, and I want to encourage those young people who are at village to do it, practice it, and it is ready. It's good that we continue supporting even those who are doing the kienyeji at the village levels. Thank you.
Right. Chris, let me ask you about a point that Zachary has brought up. Of course, he says that he started as non-commercial, really, at the beginning, and now when he got capital, that is when he transitioned to the commercial bit of it. So what does it take for farmers to now, because most farmers just do subsistence chicken rearing, so to say, what does it take to move from that to now a profitable business?
Thank you. One of the things we've done and just established is that for you really to do what I call commercial production, there is a minimum number of birds, and we're looking at about 150 or so. So any farmer that is keeping anything less than 150, you're basically doing a hobby, if I'll call it. You're not really doing the commercial production of chicken or poultry as such. So one of the things we're trying to do is to help our farmers come together and take advantage of what I'll call economies of scale. So we group farmers together into what we call produce organization, so that they are now able to put their resources together and therefore be able now to invest in poultry production as a business. And that investment requires that they also look at now what are the factors of production that they need, how can they source them, and because they come together in a big number of, we work mostly with about 1,600 farmers that have come together into what we call a produce organization. So these are the smallholder farmers who've come together, but now looking at producing chicken on a commercial basis, not just as a hobby. And we think that this is the right way to go, because we realize that individually it's a bit difficult to scale up unless you have some other resources somewhere. And then again, when it comes to aspects of aggregation, aspects of marketing, you may not be able to sustain that particular demand that may arise if you're doing it as an individual farmer, not unless you're basically a big commercial farmer. But we realize that most of the farmers we work with in the rural communities are those that are medium scale and small scale farmers. Thank you.
Right. You've brought up the point of just collaboration and working together as farmers. Zachary, as you were scaling up your production, what challenges did you encounter, and how did you go around them? Because as at now, are you still just an individual business person, or have you just collaborated with other farmers?
Okay, thank you. I think as my colleague said, when you are doing poultry farming, it's good that you come together, because, for example, most of the supermarkets and most of the big hotels, they require consistent supply of eggs or meat. So if you do it alone, a time will come when you realize that you have run out of stock. So it is good to form a group, or you come together. And exactly that's what we have done as farmers from Kiambu County, poultry farmers. we came together and formed a cooperative called Kiambu County Poultry Farmers, which now has like 700 farmers with a capacity of almost 800,000 layers. And the same people are also doing kienyeji and broilers. So when it comes to matters eggs, you must have consistent, because supermarkets will not come to you, or institutions like schools. You have to supply in time, and you have to supply the required quantities. So doing it alone, as my colleague said, might be a big challenge, because you know we have a lot of chicken and poultry diseases, and a time will come, maybe you have your stocks all swept out. So it is good that you have a group. For example, what we do is that we have formed a WhatsApp group, and that's where we do our marketing. So any farmer who has some eggs, we post, and us as the leaders of the cooperative will now say the same to several other buyers, so that every time we require, or every time we have eggs in our stores, we are almost assured that they will get a buyer, and the supply is consistent. So once again, I want to encourage the farmers, because we have different countries. I want to encourage them to come together, because as my colleague said, it's also economical. Like now, what we have done is that we realized that the cost of production, which the feeds consumes like almost 90%. We realized that if you go to the commercial feeds or animal sellers, you'll realize that a kg of layers mash, for example, will go to up to almost 50 shillings per kg. So when you go to buy a 70 kg bag, that's almost 3,500. We realized that it's too high for the farmers. And when we came together as a cooperative, we say that we agreed that we are going to produce our own feeds. And that's exactly what we are doing now. And a cost of that bag that would have gone to a tune of 3,500, now we are selling it to our farmers at 2,600. So you can see the difference is almost between 600 and 700 shillings per bag. So I think when you come together, you put your resources together, you benefit more.
You benefit more.
Yes.
He has mentioned, Zachary has mentioned producing their own feeds, thus bringing the cost of production down. There's also other benefits of just coming together and forming cooperatives and working together as farmers. Could you take us through what other opportunities are there when people come together?
Thank you. One of the things, of course, just besides the economies of scale in terms of the feed, we also see that the opportunities for reaching markets, especially when we now aggregate together those smallholder farmers, when there is an order, they are able to bring the chicken together and able to supply, and not just supply, but consistently supply. So that's one of the benefits. The other thing also, we're seeing that it creates an opportunity now for the produce organization or for the farmers that have come together to do business directly, say with a feed miller, to do business directly with the suppliers of vaccines. And therefore it opens up business opportunities, and as those business opportunities come along the line, then you realize that the cost of production is also tremendously reduced, because then the producer organization will be able to purchase this in bulk on behalf of the farmers, and then be able now to distribute it or have now the farmers cab. So those are some of the benefits that accrue for farmers coming together. And we've also seen that when we look at now addressing issues of input like day-old chicks, the same thing would also apply. When we look at issues of finances, and especially, which is also a challenge, because most smallholder farmers will tell you we can't increase our flock size because we don't access finance, we can access capital. So when they come together, one of the things we've been able to do in the project is now to link them to the financial institutions. Now, when we link them to the financial institutions, we're telling them that, come here, look, these are the numbers we're dealing with. So this gives you a business opportunity. If we present to you 40,000 smallholder farmers and you're a financial institutions, and these farmers are organized, it becomes very easy to deal with them, because then you'll just be dealing with the leadership, and therefore, even if you are to advance some credit or some input, you are sure that definitely that will be repaid. So those are some of the advantages, I would say.
And how about access to maybe government services like extension services, information about the sector, and maybe growing their businesses? Is that easier in a group?
It is easier in a group, but one of the things we also must admit is that extension has been a challenge, and because when you look at the government extension system, there have been challenges of personnel and all that. So one of the things we've done is that we have come up with a system, what we call a farmer-led extension system. And the farmer-led, basically what we've done is we have identified farmers from the community, and then we build their capacity to do extension service on behalf of the produce organization, because we believe that if we are going to increase the production of poultry, then the extension system must be up to date. And we realize that in the counties we have limited staff, and of course the challenge of resources. Therefore, for us, we said, if we are to do this thing right, then we need an extension system that is farmer-led. And when it's farmer-led, it becomes easy for a farmer to learn from another farmer and therefore adopt. So we have trained what we call community facilitators. We have also trained what we call community agrovet entrepreneurs, and linked them now up with the farmers, and of course with the support of the county government, because at the end of the day we believe that there should also be that linkage. So that is how we're able to look at issues of extension, such that at the end of the day we know that as much as the government is putting in this kind of efforts, we know that our farmers are directly reached. And that information, whether it's production, whether it's vaccine, pest and disease control, they're basically taken through. Because that's the only way then that if we sit back and say we're expecting to increase production, then we must look at those systemic challenges.
Yes. Zachary, what has been your experience in terms of access to these extension services? First, as an individual business person when you were just practicing alone, as well as now in a group, how has it been?
It has been a big challenge. When I was doing poultry farming as an individual, I would only rely on private veterinaries or those services, because the government ones, either they are in the office or they actually are not accessible. You go to the offices, you tell them whatever problem you have, they start complaining about fuel and the like, they don't have a car to come to your place. So those are the big problems that we are facing as poultry farmers at our farms. But when we formed a group, we can say that the government now can hear from us, because when I complain, I don't complain as Zachary. I complain as a director or as a leader of a certain group. And they normally come very fast. Though still we need them to be on the ground. It's not a matter of us going for them. It is them coming for us to know what exactly is the problem on the ground. Because when we keep on calling them and requesting them to do whatever, to come up with a solution, it becomes quite a challenge, because various farmers have different problems, and they need, they need to compare the managerial practices of a certain farmer with the other. So it's good that groups, when they come together, the government also identifies a person who will be taking care of that particular group. Because if we just leave it at that, then you go to the office of this public or whatever, then you realize that you may go there, you find the officer that you are dealing with is no longer there, either has been transferred, and that now comes to an end. Because the relationship that you had with that particular person, when he's no longer there, where he's transferred, then you have to go for another. And you saw sometimes they are, I can say sometimes they are rude, because they will tell you go to the person that you are dealing with. So that's where we have the challenge with the government officers. But actually currently now as a group, we can say that things have changed.
All right.